Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller TV series named Cursed Local Urban Legends, Tokyo, Kanagawa, Hokkaido Editions. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The first story begins with a young woman named Mina who has just arrived in Tokyo and rented the cheapest apartment she could find. Her mother, perhaps worried she wouldn't have enough to eat, even mailed her some sweet potatoes, a local specialty from their hometown. Mina's neighbor is a woman who seems very fashionable and a bit pretentious. Her landlord is a man with glasses who looks cool and isn't very talkative. To thank the landlord for the cheap rent, Mina even offered him 2 of the sweet potatoes. Mina was puzzled by her landlord's aloof attitude, but didn't think much of it at the time. However, that night, trouble started in her apartment building. For some reason, perhaps because the neighbor had offended someone, the door to the adjacent apartment was knocked on all night. The knocking was mixed with the sound of a woman's angry moans, which kept Mina from sleeping a wink. The next day, Mina told her best friend about the incident. Her friend urged her to move out immediately, saying that with something so strange happening, it was too dangerous to stay, and something terrible could happen to her. But Mina explained that if she moved, she would probably never find such an affordable place again. Mina asked her friend to stay over that night, but her friend looked hesitant, explaining that she had to work overtime until 11 p.m. Mina said that a late arrival was fine, but her friend was still reluctant because she had plans to meet her boyfriend afterward. Perhaps fearing Mina would accuse her of prioritizing her boyfriend over their friendship, she jokingly challenged Mina, saying she would stay over if Mina could outrun her. The two then laughed and chased each other as they left. That evening after work, as Mina was about to open her door, she saw her landlord standing outside, eating one of the sweet potatoes she had given him while staring intently at the neighbor's door. Mina greeted him, but he completely ignored her. After the landlord left, Mina also looked in that direction. She was horrified to see that the neighbor's door was covered in seals that read "Entry Prohibited," and below the door, the floor was covered in dense, bloody handprints. The sight made Mina's scalp tingle and her heart pound in her chest. Around 11:19 that night, Mina was still trying to keep busy. She was too scared to even think about sleeping. Suddenly, her phone rang, startling her. It was her best friend. Hearing that her friend was really on her way, Mina finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her friend said she'd be there in 10 minutes, but 20 minutes passed and she still hadn't arrived. During the wait, Mina couldn't help but doze off for a bit. When she woke up, she called her friend's phone. The signal was terrible. Mina couldn't make out what her friend was saying. Assuming her friend had arrived, she went to open the door. On the phone, her friend was frantically telling Mina to go back inside and lock the door, explaining that there was a strange, crawling woman on the building's staircase. Mina was confused, completely unaware that at that very moment, a bizarre woman in red was crawling up the stairs towards her. When Mina finally saw the figure, she rushed back into her apartment and locked the door. But the woman didn't seem to give up. She quickly crawled to Mina's door and began pulling on it violently. Mina was petrified, sitting on the floor in despair, her legs numb with fear. A moment later, the door was finally forced open. Mina screamed in terror only to see that it was her best friend who had come in. Seeing her friend, Mina finally felt a wave of relief. She stood up, hugged her friend, and broke down in tears. After Mina had completely calmed down, her friend suggested that she pack a bag and come stay at her place for a few days. Mina nodded in agreement. But then, Mina remembered something. She went to another room to get some of the local specialty foods her mother had sent, wanting to give some to her friend as a thank you. However, when she turned around, she was horrified to see her friend also crawling towards her in the same eerie, unnatural manner. Or rather, the person in front of her was no longer her best friend at all. The next morning, Mina's room was also sealed off, just like her neighbor's, with official seals and a mess of bloody handprints. The landlord stood in front of her door, staring blankly, probably wondering how to handle this new problem. A moment later, he went downstairs to return to his own room, but just as he was opening his door, he froze. In the next second, he was violently dragged inside by something unseen. In old buildings, many spirits of the dead gather. If they are evil entities, they might just decide to do something to us. You can never truly know what's going on. The second story begins with a woman idly plucking petals from a flower, looking as if she's just bored. On the table is a divorce agreement, which the woman has already signed. All that's left is for the man to affix his seal. Once he does, the woman eagerly snatches the document and puts it in her bag. The man asks if she has anything else to say to him. The woman just tells him to get lost with his smelly butt. The man leaves with nothing, having been kicked out of the house. After the divorce, he has to leave this place, but thankfully he doesn't have many belongings, just a single box. That night, a beautiful and sexy woman arrives at the apartment. The newly divorced man has rented it to be their new love nest. Although it's a bit run down, the woman doesn't mind. While they are eating, the man suddenly mentions a rumor he heard, that all the previous tenants of this room have disappeared one by one, even the building manager. The woman is unfazed, remarking that it's probably for the best, as it will at least be quiet. Afterward, they notice a cabinet behind them. It looks quite old and has likely been there for many years, but they don't give it much thought. The next day, the woman returns with a bunch of things. No one answers her knock, so she lets herself in and finds the man is indeed not home. She starts cleaning the apartment for him. While cleaning, she finds a ring. Curious, she picks it up to examine it, but the moment she touches it, she hears a strange noise. The sound seems to be coming from the cabinet behind her, but when she turns to look, she sees nothing unusual. When she looks back, she sees the man has returned at some point and is standing right there, startling her. He tries to comfort her using his muscles, but she tells him they should finish cleaning first. The man stands behind her, watching her clean, but after a while, he can no longer restrain himself. A month later, the woman suddenly breaks up with him. The man asks why, and she tells him that other women have been in the apartment. He denies it, so she presents a pile of jewelry, explaining that she found these items near the cabinet every time she cleaned. The man is stunned because he insists it's impossible. She is the only woman he's been with, but she doesn't believe him, and he's at a loss. He tries to explain further, but the woman adds that she always feels uneasy in his room, as if a pair of eyes is constantly watching her sexy body. Because of this, she suspects he installed a hidden camera. Based on all this, she concludes he's a pervert. She returns his key and walks out without looking back. After she leaves, the man is utterly dejected. That evening, he returns home still confused, and that's when he hears the noise again. It's coming from the direction of the cabinet, so he assumes it's his neighbor. He goes next door to confront the woman from the first story, showing her the jewelry and asking if she put it there and if she has been spying on him. After being thoroughly scolded by his neighbor, the man has no choice but to drown his sorrows in alcohol. He drinks heavily that night, too drunk to notice anything strange about the cabinet. The next day, during his lunch break, the man sees his ex-girlfriend with what appears to be a new lover. Enraged, he violently beats the new man up and then quits his job on the spot. Later, as he lies in his apartment full of regret, he suddenly finds another piece of jewelry on the floor. Immediately after, the same eerie sound comes from the cabinet again. This time, the man is furious. Convinced someone is hiding in the gap of the closet, he goes over to investigate. He peers inside like a peeping Tom and, indeed, sees a person. After a scene transition, the man has vanished, so he is unable to hear his ex-girlfriend's voicemail. In the message, she explains that she was just trying to make him angry and asks if he really quit his job. She says she's on her way to see him now. In your daily life, when you suddenly feel that something is not right, it's probably best not to investigate too deeply if you think it's just your imagination. But if you can't help but feel curious, be prepared for what you might find when you peek into the gaps. The third story begins at an apartment complex where many strange incidents have occurred and many people have disappeared. As a result, the government is planning to demolish it. The path by the apartment happens to be the one that three friends, Maki, Haruka, and Iken, must take to get home. Maki is a bit scared upon hearing the news of the demolition. One of them carelessly steps on the flowers left by others as a memorial. Seeing the memorial sign ahead, Maki panics and wonders what they should do. However, Iken comforts her using his juicy tongue but not muscles, suggesting it will be fine as long as they offer a sincere prayer. They then kneel before the sign. While Haruka and Iken appear to be genuinely praying, it's unclear how sincere Maki is. The relationship between these three is quite complicated. Haruka and Maki are best friends. Maki has a crush on Iken and wants to crush her hormones on him, but Iken seems to be interested in Haruka. Consequently, Maki asks Haruka to meet up, trying to probe her feelings and ask if she is interested in Iken. She even insincerely claims that if Haruka also likes Iken, she would choose their friendship over love. All in all, Maki's speech is incredibly moving, so much so that Haruka is touched and immediately makes her position clear, stating that Iken is not her type. With this reassurance, Maki feels completely at ease and prepares to make her move on Iken. That day, as they are heading back, Haruka says she has to go shopping with her mother, so Maki has to walk home alone along that path. When she reaches the spot with the memorial flowers, Maki suddenly gets goosebumps and her scalp tingles inexplicably. She sees a woman squatting in a corner up ahead. Her intuition tells her that the woman is dangerous, so Maki plans to pass by quickly, but curiosity gets the better of her, and after passing, she turns back to look at the woman. To her horror, she discovers the woman is now squatting in the corner on her side of the path. This bizarre scene terrifies Maki, and she breaks into a run, completely unaware that her actions have successfully drawn the woman's attention. Meanwhile, Haruka has lied. She wasn't shopping with her mother, she was with Iken, who confessed his hormone feelings for her. Haruka is shocked by his confession. She appears calm on the outside, but her heart is fluttering. It is not revealed whether she accepted his confession. The scene then shifts back to Maki, who is sitting at her desk, her mind uncontrollably replaying the scene she witnessed earlier. Just then, a strange sound echoes through the room, a voice that seems to be mumbling something about a Daruma doll. Maki looks toward the source of the sound and is terrified to see that the woman has followed her home and is now squatting in her room. In the next instant, the woman vanishes without traces of her smell. At the same time, Haruka is trying to call Maki, but no one answers because Maki is in the shower. The unanswered call makes Haruka feel melancholic. Is it because Iken confessed to her, or because she betrayed her friend's trust by accepting his feelings? Back with Maki, she was hoping to wash away her cold sweat, but even in the shower, she can't stop thinking about the woman. In a daze, she hears the Daruma doll sound again. Maki follows the sound with her eyes and sees a pale-faced woman lying in her bathtub. Before Maki can scream, the woman suddenly rises, covers her smelly mouth, and drags her heavy body away. Maki has disappeared. A week goes by, and everyone assumes she has run away from home. Haruka becomes withdrawn and unhappy, believing Maki is angry with her for accepting Iken's confession. Iken, seeing his new girlfriend is upset, comforts her, saying that Maki will come back once she has had time to think things through. The two agree to meet again the next day and then go their separate ways. On her way home, Haruka walks with her head down and, without realizing it, ends up at the memorial site. She sees the portrait of a missing person, which reminds her of Maki. But then, she too hears a strange sound. Looking toward the source, she also sees the woman. Haruka is terrified by the sight, but when she tries to run, her ankle is grabbed. Looking down, she sees the missing Maki. The fourth story begins with a young man who was driving at night and happened to glance at his rearview mirror. What he saw made his face turn pale with fright. An old woman was running at an unbelievable speed like a Tesla. Terrified, the man instinctively slammed on the accelerator. Even as the car reached 140 kilometers per hour, the old woman not only kept pace but actually caught up and overtook the car. As she passed, she looked at the man through the window and gave him a sinister smile. The man later died in an accident. This was the horror story that a veteran driver told a rookie, Higashi. Unexpectedly, Higashi didn't believe a word of it, thinking it was just a story the veteran driver made up to scare newcomers. The two then launched into a lively conversation, chatting about everything under the sun, which eventually led to the topic of women. The veteran driver asked Higashi if he had a girlfriend. Higashi said yes. The veteran driver then tried to guess her profession, asking if she worked in tourism, as a sales associate, a waitress, or even at their company. Higashi shook his head to all these guesses and revealed that she was a nurse, a full-time employee at the city hospital. The veteran driver was astonished. He couldn't believe a guy like Higashi could have a girlfriend like that. He was angry and incredulous. When he heard that Higashi's girlfriend was not only gentle but also beautiful, the veteran driver was overcome with disbelief, feeling as if it was worse than death itself. After the veteran driver calmed down, Higashi asked if he was married. The veteran driver replied that he was single, which explained his bitter attitude. Afterward, the veteran driver fell silent. As time passed, he fell asleep snoring like a pig, and Higashi himself was yawning, struggling to stay awake. He thought about chewing some gum to wake himself up, but suddenly he heard a strange laugh. Higashi looked back but saw nothing. He assumed he was just tired and hallucinating, so he paid it no mind. But later, while driving, he casually glanced at his rearview mirror. What he saw almost made him wet his pants. There really was an old woman running frantically on the highway, laughing as she ran like a chicken. Higashi was terrified, and then, in a flash, everything went black. When he regained consciousness, he found himself lying at home. His girlfriend, dressed in a nurse's uniform, was caring for him tenderly. She told him he had been in a car accident, but that luckily neither of them was seriously injured. Hearing this, Higashi felt relieved. He then asked where the veteran driver was, wondering if he was still at the hospital. His girlfriend shook her head and said the veteran driver had already gone home. As Higashi looked at his girlfriend, her face transformed into that of the old woman. He was so scared he passed out. Then, he woke up for real. It had all been a wet dream. He had fallen asleep at the wheel, a truly dangerous mistake. He wondered if it was because of the horror story the veteran driver told him that he had such a dream. Just then, his phone rang. It was his girlfriend. As Higashi reached for the phone, he looked down and saw the old woman's terrifying face. The story ends here. The fifth story begins in the northern part of Hokkaido, where there is a mountain known for its beautiful scenery. A young couple went there for a trip, but they never returned. Some say they encountered a witch in the mountains. The witch is said to have a peculiar hobby. She enjoys dismembering people, stuffing their remains into sacks and discarding them. A few years ago, a female student also went there and disappeared, and it's rumored the witch was responsible. However, these are all just speculations with no evidence. This time, though, the missing couple had a video camera with them. The following footage, provided by the police, documents the couple's experiences before they disappeared. That day, the man was driving while the woman held the video camera, busy filming and occasionally snacking on something. After driving for about a few dozen minutes, they arrived at their destination. They were overjoyed, dancing in TikTok style and celebrating their arrival. The couple sang and danced as they ventured deeper into the mountain, but after walking for a while, the woman suddenly stopped, as if she had seen something. The man quickly joined her and saw it too, a single dirty shoe with maggots crawling on it. They were both disgusted and puzzled as to why such a thing would be in the middle of the mountains. The woman became a little scared and asked the man to change their route. This led them into another part of the forest, where they seemed to get lost. The video cuts out for about 40 minutes and then resumes. The couple is preparing to eat. The woman has made a bento box with love and insists on feeding the man a bite. He eats it and praises her cooking effusively. The video cuts out again. When it resumes, the couple's demeanor has clearly changed. They still haven't found their way out of the forest and have now come across a sack. Curious, they approach it and are horrified to discover that the sack is filled with flesh. Thinking it might be the human flesh, the woman is so scared she runs a great distance away. She is terrified and wants to go back, but after wandering in a circle, they end up right back at the sack. The woman becomes extremely frustrated and walks off, ignoring the man. As the sun begins to set, the forest grows dark and the woman shivers from the cold. Seeing this, the man thoughtfully takes off his jacket and gives it to her. During this time, the woman needs to relieve herself and dump her wastewater. She walks a long way off and warns the man not to peek, which he obediently agrees to. A moment later, the man hears the woman scream. Looking in the direction of the sound, he is horrified to see a person with a sack over his head attacking his girlfriend. The attacker quickly overpowers her and then turns towards the man. The man is frozen with fear, and by the time he thinks to run, it's too late. The person in the sack catches up to him. As he screams, the camera stops recording. He was likely killed as well and subsequently disappeared, probably ending up as flesh in one of those sacks. In reality, the danger had been foreshadowed. When they first entered the forest and were eating their bento, the person in the sack had already appeared in the background then. If they had immediately left the mountain and gone home at that moment, they might have avoided this terrifying fate. The sixth story begins after a man's wife passes away, leaving him to raise their daughter, May, all by himself. The man has to work to support his family. If he doesn't, he might not even be able to pay the rent. But he doesn't feel safe leaving his young daughter home alone. So he entrusts May to the care of his beautiful upstairs landlady. After giving his instructions, the man leaves. May, however, ignores the neighbor lady and goes straight back to her own apartment. When the neighbor lady follows her inside, she finds May staring intently at the toilet. The neighbor lady asks if she needs to use the bathroom. At the time, the neighbor lady didn't think much of it and simply took May back to her own apartment. That evening, the neighbor lady made May a delicious omuris. While the neighbor lady was on the phone for a moment, May ran to the neighbor lady's bathroom and stood there, staring at the toilet again. When the neighbor lady found her, she still didn't pay much attention to May's strange behavior and just got her washed up and ready for bed. However, when the neighbor lady woke up in the middle of the night, she discovered that May, who had been sleeping beside her, was gone. She wasn't anywhere in the apartment. The neighbor lady panicked. She couldn't bear the thought of losing the child. But as the neighbor lady searched outside her room, she heard May's voice, seemingly calling for her mother. The neighbor lady followed the sound to May's apartment door and, standing outside, heard the sound of May laughing. Upon entering, the neighbor lady found May giggling at the toilet. This bizarre scene sent shivers down the neighbor lady's spine all the way to her smelly butt. The next morning, May's father returned. After sending May away, the neighbor lady told the man what had happened the previous night, explaining how May was talking to herself in front of the toilet. She wondered if May was suffering from some kind of trauma due to the sudden loss of her mother, or if she was genuinely seeing something. As they were talking from inside the room, May once again called out Mama to the toilet. A few days later, the man had to go on another business trip, and May was once again left in the neighbor lady's care. During this time, the neighbor lady found a drawing May had made. The picture showed a house with 3 people. Curious, the neighbor lady pointed to a very strange-looking figure and asked who it was. May replied that it was her mother. The girl's answer sent a chill down the neighbor lady's spine. The neighbor lady then tried to persuade May not to suddenly go back to her own apartment that night like she did before and to just stay put. However, when the neighbor lady woke up suddenly in the night, she found May was gone again. But this time, she was relieved to find May had been obedient and hadn't left the apartment. She was just standing in front of the neighbor lady's toilet. The neighbor lady asked May what she was doing. May just called out, "Mama." Then the neighbor lady felt a gaze from behind her. When she turned around, she saw a woman. The next day, the man returned and saw May crouching alone downstairs. He asked her what was wrong. May said that the neighbor lady wasn't moving. Hearing this, the man rushed upstairs and found the neighbor lady who had been dead for some time. May asked why the neighbor lady had died. The man explained that she had the same heart condition as May's mother. May then told him that her mother came back every night to take care of her. The man was so shocked he gulped, and he asked May where her mother came from. May pointed to the toilet. In the next instant, the lights in the room went out. The bathroom door creaked open, and May's mother actually crawled out from inside. Setting aside how terrifying the posture was, one has to wonder if she smelled after climbing out of a toilet bowl. The female ghost slowly crawled towards the man. Just as she was about to reach his stinky feet, the man flicked the lights back on. In that moment, the woman vanished, and along with her, so did his daughter. The man panicked and started searching for May, only to see her running out of the bathroom. But just as she was about to hug him, May transformed into her mother. As the ghost embraced the man, a satisfied smile appeared on her face. The next morning, the father and daughter had disappeared, nowhere to be found. It seems the family of 3 was finally reunited. The story ends here. The 7th story begins with a man injuring his foot while playing at the beach. At the time, he thought it was a minor injury, so he didn't pay it much mind, simply bandaging it up and going home. Unexpectedly, a few days later, the foot began to hurt more and more. The pain became so unbearable that the man went to the hospital where the doctor took an X-ray. After looking at the film, the doctor refused to treat him, merely giving him some vague excuses and sending him home. Afterward, barnacles began to grow wildly inside the man's foot, though he was unaware of it. During his hospital visit, he met a nurse. She was gentle, beautiful, considerate, and supposedly an excellent cook. The two hit it off immediately. After they started dating, the man went to the nurse's house for dinner, and she prepared him an entire feast of mushrooms. Her cooking was undeniably amazing. The man's ravenous eating made the nurse very happy and content. The man remarked that he had never eaten such delicious mushrooms before and asked where she bought them. The nurse replied that it was all thanks to her grandmother in the countryside. The man was surprised and asked if her grandmother grew mushrooms in the country. The nurse denied this, explaining that her grandmother only gathered enough for the family to eat, nothing more. The man felt it was a great pity that such delicious mushrooms weren't for sale. After the satisfying meal, the nurse told the man a story about her grandmother. She said that since last year, her grandmother had been taking care of her sick grandfather. But one day, her grandfather passed away. After his death, her grandmother lived alone. Perhaps out of loneliness, love, or an inability to let go, her grandmother refused to accept the reality of her husband's death. She didn't hold a funeral and continued to live with his body for over a year. Then, one day, the grandmother discovered that mushrooms were growing all over her grandfather's body, a type of mushroom she had never seen before. Intrigued, she cut one off and ate it. It was incredibly delicious, a taste beyond description. The grandmother tried harvesting more and was thrilled to find that the mushrooms would grow back, creating an inexhaustible supply. Perhaps because of these mushrooms, her grandfather's body showed no signs of decay or odor, even after being dead for over a year. It was a perfect combination of delicious food and companionship. This discovery opened up a new world for the grandmother, giving her grandfather the best possible final purpose. The nurse mentioned that her grandparents had always doted on her, so it was only natural for her grandmother to send some of this delicious food for her granddaughter to try. Hearing this story, the man's face turned pale. The nurse quickly said she was just joking. With a great effort, the man swallowed the food that was already in his mouth. He was a tough one indeed. As time went on, the man's legs seemed to get worse. One day he went to the nurse's place and asked her to take a look. When she removed the bandage, she saw a horrifying sight. Barnacles were growing on the man's leg. At this moment, however, a flash of delight crossed the nurse's face. She told him this was serious and that they had to be cut off, otherwise they would just keep multiplying. Then, ignoring the man's protests and his cries of pain, she pried off a piece of the barnacle. As the man fainted from the pain, pain, she put the barnacle in her mouth and sucked on it. This opened up a new world of pleasure for the nurse as well. She was thrilled to have tasted such an exquisite delicacy and at the same time made a sinister decision in her heart. She wanted more barnacles. So, after a scene transition, we see the nurse has a new boyfriend. On the first day he visits, she cooks him a full barnacle feast. The nurse's cooking was so good that just the sight of it made the new boyfriend's mouth water. He eagerly dug in, eating voraciously and unable to stop. Afterward, the nurse also told him a story, one similar to the tale of her grandparents. She said that the friend who sent her the barnacles lived by the sea and had injured his foot while playing on the beach. What happened next was the same story we heard before. The friend ended up with his body covered in delicious, inexhaustible barnacles. Upon hearing this, the man threw up. The nurse again claimed it was just a joke. The eighth story begins with a quiet girl named Maya who wears glasses and often seems dazed. She is frequently bullied by two classmates who once forced her to drink water with an earthworm in it and then posted a picture online. This semester, a new teacher in his 40s transferred to their school. There are rumors that he was fired from his previous school for a sexual misconduct incident, though it's unconfirmed. Recently, the two bullies have set their sights on this teacher. Maya is forced by her classmates to confess her love to the teacher and give him a love letter. Of course, this isn't real. The two culprits are hiding nearby, watching the scene unfold. Finding it not entertaining enough, they then take Maya to a place famous in a local urban legend to test it out. According to the legend, there is an entity called Satoru-kun who can answer any question about anything. To ask him a question, one must go to a specific phone booth, insert a coin, dial a specific number, and wait for Satoru-kun's answer. After hanging up, Satoru-kun will call back within the next 24 hours. On the first call, Satoru-kun will say he is nearby. With each subsequent call, he gets closer until he is standing right behind the caller. At that point, he will answer any question. However, the caller must not turn around or they will be taken away by Satoru-kun. That's the gist of the urban legend. Maya did as she was told, and that night, she did indeed receive a call from Satoru-kun. The next day, Maya, under threat, approached the male teacher again. She gave him her smelly underwear and demanded that he wear it and taste it. As mentioned, the teacher was a pervert, so he was thrilled by this request and obediently complied. This entire scene was secretly filmed by the two female bullies. Meanwhile, over the next few hours, Maya received several more calls from Satoru-kun until the final call when he announced he was right behind her. Maya was terrified, but she managed to calm herself and ask her question: how could she kill those two bullies without getting caught by the police? The following day, Maya slept with the teacher. Afterward, she confided in him about her recent troubles, telling him she didn't want to go to school anymore because she was constantly bullied by those two classmates. She insisted that their relationship must be kept a secret from them, or they would not only try to break them up, but also spread malicious rumors. She added that, if it were possible, she wished the two of them would just die. Her words seemed casual, but the teacher listened very intently. On the third day, Maya's wish came true. The teacher killed the two bullies. Perverted as he was, the teacher did have some semblance of a moral code. He did not implicate Maya, so the police never suspected her. After everything had settled down, Maya returned to the phone booth. She inserted a coin, dialed the number, and thanked Satoru-kun. His voice replied that he was right behind her. The ninth story begins with an introduction of an experiment known as the Gestalt Collapse Experiment, a little-known study within the Gestalt School of Psychology. The procedure involves standing in front of a half-length mirror, such as a vanity mirror in a bathroom, during a quiet time each day and asking, "Who are you?" 10 times. This must be repeated for 30 days. It is said that all participants experienced symptoms like loss of focus and confusion, with many even descending into madness. The time is November 2005. A research director planned to conduct such an experiment and chose a man named Big Mike to be the subject, primarily because Big Mike was in desperate need of money. That night, the director met with Big Mike. After a couple of beers, he explained the experiment. Big Mike immediately refused, saying that it sounded like a suicide mission and he wouldn't do it. But then the director offered him $1 million to participate. The first day of the experiment went normally, as did the second, third, and fourth. The director asked Big Mike if he had been following the procedure. Big Mike replied that he had and that nothing had happened. But as he was saying this, he suddenly fainted. The director guessed he was probably just exhausted from balancing the experiment with his regular job, so he significantly reduced Big Mike's workload. The experiment reached its 10th day. By now, Big Mike no longer looked as energetic as he did on the first day, but it wasn't a major concern. Another 5 days passed. On the 15th day, Big Mike was visibly more haggard, but he still seemed to be holding up okay. By the 18th day, Big Mike's mental state appeared to be deteriorating. The director, concerned, asked him how he was doing and told him he looked terrible. He advised Big Mike to eat something better instead of instant noodles. Big Mike insisted he was fine. Just then, the director received a phone call and stepped aside to answer it. But when he hung up and looked back at Big Mike, he was horrified to see Big Mike eating not just the noodles, but the cardboard container as well. The director was terrified and immediately sent Big Mike home. He didn't mention the money, and Big Mike, in his state, had likely forgotten about it. After that, the director lost contact with Big Mike. However, it is believed that Big Mike continued the experiment on his own. On the 20th day, Big Mike's condition was very poor. On the 25th day, it was even worse. He even fainted during the experiment. By the 27th day, it seemed Big Mike genuinely no longer recognized himself. The videos documenting these days were the last things the director found in Big Mike's home. Big Mike himself was gone. Whether he disappeared or died, no one knows. At least that's what the director claims. To ensure Big Mike's experimental footage wasn't recorded in vain, the director decided to release the videos to the public. He warned that the footage from the final days is extremely terrifying and should be watched with caution. On the 28th day, Big Mike was already hallucinating while looking in the mirror. On the 29th day, Big Mike swayed in front of the mirror for a few moments and then vanished, only to reappear eerily in front of the camera lens a moment later. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.